Welcome to Around the SEC. I am Stephen Willis alongside Corey Burton and Jeff Beecham, here to talk all about the SEC coming up this weekend. Of course, you can follow us at Positively Ole Miss on Twitter, Old Positively on Facebook, facebook.com/Pomcast, POMCST. And of course, YouTube, Positively Ole Miss. And of course, you guessed it, Twitch, Positively Ole Miss. You can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. So we're pretty much everywhere. We're having a good time. How you guys doing?
Man, I'm great. I know the stories you told me about Coach O. I'm having flashbacks on your behalf from some of the stories that you told me about how crazy Coach O was, and I'm surprised that you still have a shirt on right now, if I'm being honest. But doing great though.
Yeah, after this is all over, during this podcast, I may share a Coach O story tonight. I don't know if I'll get froggy or if I forget about it, but I'm planning on it doing it. How you doing, Jeff?
Doing pretty good. It's already been a long week, but I enjoyed football last weekend for the most part, and I'm looking forward to it this weekend. So doing all right.
And that is very good. And we're just sitting here talking about LSU and whether or not we should opt out of talking about them, or maybe self-imposing a ban on talking about them, or maybe we could be like the New York Jets and self-impose a ban in the playoffs. Corey, it's just a mess, and I'm having all kinds of flashbacks to 2006 Ole Miss.
Oh my God! Yeah, I mean, I think he's even going one step further than 2006 Ole Miss. I think he's like said, okay, I'm gonna take every mistake I made, and I'm gonna not only double down on those mistakes, but I'm gonna make those, I'm gonna glorify those mistakes and repeat them again, and that's what he's doing here with this bunch. Except that he had a once in a lifetime, once in a generation, perfect storm happen a year ago. Got a national championship out of it. Now I think the devil is coming to collect. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't understand. Like it's actually impressive how fast it unraveled for him. And Steve, I know you're probably even less surprised than I am because you worked for him. But I mean, my God, man, players are opting out left and right. I think between the players that graduated and left early for the NFL draft from the 2019 team. They've had since then, I think they had 17 people leave the program just with graduation and guys going to the NFL, which is normal, just normal like ebb and flow of the roster when you have a national championship team. Now you have, I think they're up to 16 opt-outs and counting. So they've lost since January. They've lost 30 players. 33 players, something like that. It's insane. And a lot of them are heavy hitters, like Jamar Chase and Eric Gilbert just opted out today. He's thinking about transferring. There's a G in his future, so to speak. He's from Marietta, Georgia, so there is a G in his future, I think, from what I'm reading. But there could also be a power T in his future as well. So it's going to come down to those two schools, but he is definitely transferring. So, man, it's a mess, guys. It really is.
Well, I'll just say this. Whenever in 2006, we had a team meeting. And during that team meeting, one of the notorious Coach O ripping his shirt off and dog piles happened. And he stopped in the middle of doing this massive humanity, and it was crazy. It was like South Park, the Illegal Aliens episode, where they all go to the future and decide to have just sex with each other to stop everybody from coming in the future. It looked really weird. It's so uncomfortable. And Coach O was doing that. And then while everything was going, he stopped. And he told all of them to stop on the floor because there was this big mound of players and coaches without their shirts on. And he's without his shirt on. And he just stopped, and then he turned on me because I didn't take my shirt off. So he started yelling at me to take off my shirt. so that they could get back to having their dog pile in the middle of the team meeting room. And then eventually I took the shirt off, and then it just went back like it just kept going. And eventually I'm assuming, I don't remember this part, I'm assuming somebody came out of there with the football. Maybe not, though.
Who knows? Somebody probably came out of there with a football somewhere that it shouldn't be.
Yeah. But that
So,
really happened.
God,
Mhm.
that just that good Lord,
Mm-hmm.
it's leaving me speechless. It's leaving me even stuttering. How just absurd that is.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
It was amazing back then hearing some of the stories you told about that. And hard, I mean, obviously I did believe him. It's just hard to believe that kind of stuff. But then you see how he acts now with everything kind of breaking down around him, and you realize, oh yeah, he's just crazy.
Yeah,
And it is entertaining.
yeah, and you just figured out that they won the national championship in spite of him, and that was all on Joe Brady and Dave Aranda. Without those two, it was going to be a train wreck, and now we're seeing the train wreck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Dave Aranda is kicking around at Baylor, which there is a there's a special type of dumpster fire if you're going to take your first job at Baylor, which that's a mess of a university to take your first ever head coaching job. And for him to just say, okay, I'm going to Baylor, see you guys, and not like leaving really quickly, you knew there was something underlying there under the surface. And it was, and then Joe Brady leaves, which I'm not surprised about Joe Brady. He's going to be an NFL head coach next year somewhere. You can bank on that. That dude is extremely talented in the coaching world. So that's another thing. That's another story for another day. But yeah, it's then you have Dave Aranda leave, then you have Joe Brady leave, then you have some people opting out, some guys leaving early for the draft that probably could have come back and improved their draft stock. Anytime you have borderline guys leaving, sometimes that's an indictment on the program. Sometimes they're just getting bad advice. It's usually a combination of both. But then COVID happens, and then you start getting all these other opt outs, and then you get the big dogs opting out. Then you get Jamar Chase opting out. Then you get other. I mean, they see the writing on the wall. Then when he hired Pelini, I was like, oh God, this is going to be a disaster. Steve, I think you and I talked about it at one point when it happened, because I think you had just launched the Palmcast, or you hadn't been doing it long, and we talked about it. I think just in passing about how much of a disaster Bo Pelini was going to be, and that is very much true. Like if you watch Derek Stingley, he was great last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the best freshman corners that I've ever seen, and projected to he could have been a first rounder, top 10 pick last year had he come out as a freshman. This year he regressed big time. I think, given where he was last year and where he was this year, I think he regressed.
I think he went from being the sixth best player on that defense, and judging by the first round picks last year, I mean that there's a chance that happened, to being like the first and being the focal point, and thinking the lack of attention he got as being the number 6 guy on the defense to being the focal point of the game plan. I think that really flipped him out. Plus, with all the opt-outs and everything, he just has no want to tackle. He does not want physical contact. And if the NFL finds out about that, which they will, camera is always running. It's going to pick it up. If you don't tackle, you don't play in the NFL.
No, you got to tackle. You got to be physical. You got to be, and that your cover skills and your special teams contributions as a return guy can only take you so far. If you're not going to be physical in the NFL, teams are going to expose you, and you're gonna be looking for a job real quick.
Yeah. If you're going to have an aversion to tackling, you better be Deion Sanders good.
And even Deion was early in his career then he figured out ways to not have to stick his face in there. But But when you're Deion Sanders and you and you lose coverage on purpose so that you can get some extra work, then that's impressive.
So LSU is a dumpster fire. They've self-imposed a bowl ban this year for a year that they weren't going anyway. And the NCAA really shouldn't let them get away with that.
Punishment.
Yeah,
that's a punishment, guys.
yeah.
Hey, we're gonna self-impose a bowl ban. We only won 3 games and we got blown out. We ain't a bowl team, but we gonna take a bowl ban this year. NCAA, we gonna do it. Hey, I'm Coach Joe.
Well, here's the kicker. Ole Miss paid $10,000. They got caught with $10,000 worth of penalties. LSU's north of $200,000, and Ole Miss got a 2-year bowl ban. LSU is trying to self-impose a 1. If this is fair, LSU would get like a 12-year bowl ban. So it's going to be at a minimum 2.
I think it'll be 2. Either that, or they'll get so mad that they'll kick Arkansas out of the SEC.
Yeah, Mizzou is going down.
Mizzou will never go to a bowl game ever again.
All right. Let's take a break there, just to give that a rest, and we'll come back and get into this weekend right here on Around the SEC.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back to Around the SEC. I am Stephen Willis along with Corey and Jeb. Time to get into this weekend's action. We're going to give it a start with Auburn versus Mississippi State. You've got an Auburn team that's kind of packing it in at the moment, and you've got a Mississippi State team going the other direction. It could be a fun game in Starkville. I'm kind of looking forward to the development of Will Rogers in this game.
I am too. I like Will Rogers. I think, just seeing his development from when Mike Leach entered him into the starting lineup. I think it was 2 games before they played Georgia. He had a really good game against Georgia. I don't think he threw many incomplete passes, but he's extremely accurate, and then that's what Coach Leach wants in his quarterbacks. And he's a lot of fun to watch. And these young guys, man, they're really buying in. Jaquavius Marks at running back, he's kind of buying into his role of, hey, I'm not going to be much of a runner, but I'm going to be involved in the passing game, and he's okay with that, and he's okay with the occasional carry, and that's what you need if you're going to play running back for Mike Leach. And then the receiving core, he's finally got some guys that he can count on, and I think there's a good chemistry between Will Rogers and his receiving core, and I think you're starting to kind of see that now because he's throwing more anticipatory routes. He understands the concepts. The receivers, I think, finally understand the concepts, because within the air raid, there's not a whole lot of, like, when you look at the air raid system as a whole, there's really not a lot of concepts, right? It's kind of like the passing version of wing teeth. There's not a lot there, but everything in the air raid has specific adjustments for every sort of coverage. Like, they run their mesh concept. Those mesh guys have 1.5 million adjustments based on the coverage they see, right? And there's other routes that go off of the mesh. With the Y cross, there's different caveats to different coverage. Single high, you're gonna bend flatter. Two high safeties, you're probably gonna split the safeties and get the ball in the middle of the field, or you might adjust your route a certain way. If they're playing match 4, or if they're playing cover 0, or whatever the coverage may be, it's going to dictate where these receivers go. And I think it took some of these guys a little bit longer than expected to kind of adjust to that. And that's not abnormal for a Mike Leach offense. It's happened everywhere he's been. And when they finally get comfortable, that's when you start to see the yards and the touchdowns start to pile up. So this is going to be a fun game, as long as Will Rogers doesn't make a habit out of knocking out referees. So we're going to be good there.
Yeah, I think Mississippi State, I wonder, and I don't think it'll affect them too bad, but I do wonder how they're going to play this week, coming off probably what was their biggest game of the season, with the game they wanted the most anyway of the season, where they actually played pretty well but couldn't pull it out in the end. Ole Miss just stayed ahead of them the entire game and wouldn't let them catch up. But I do like the way they've been playing, and Auburn, like you said, is definitely on a downhill trajectory. And it would
Ole
be
Miss
interesting.
Forced more punts. That's what it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it was a good game, but it was one that I know that Mississippi State, was playing as hard as they could, because obviously the Egg Bowl is such a big deal to both those teams.
Yeah.
But with Auburn on the downhill trend, I kind of like the situation for Mississippi State, and it would be really interesting if there are only 2 wins, and I'm not counting Vanderbilt. I'm sorry, Vanderbilt. If there are only 2 real wins in the SEC this season, were LSU and Auburn, because they caught LSU by surprise at the beginning of the season. If they can catch Auburn on this downhill trajectory and win that game, I think that's an interesting record for Mississippi State to come out with a losing season, but haven't beaten LSU and Auburn in your division.
This is worth noting also. Kevin Steele was the DC at Clemson and gave up 77 points to Dana Holgerson running the air raid, getting killed with mesh, getting killed on those concepts that we saw in that first game of the year. If Auburn is not careful, it could look a lot like that, because they are stubborn with their man-to-man, and Mississippi State is going to run crosser after crosser after crosser.
And Will Rogers is 1,000,000 times more accurate than KJ Costello. And that was a huge difference. Just making a change at the quarterback spot has improved them tenfold on accuracy, production, everything. I mean, they're a much better team. They're a much smoother team with Will Rogers behind center. So I'm impressed with Mississippi State. Jaden Wally is somebody who I want to say he came out of nowhere, but I'm not. I mean, I'm not sure if he came out of nowhere, but I think he did. It's a crazy story of just like he pops up and I'll be like, who is this kid? And he's like making all the plays now. So they're excited to have a
true freshman from D'Iberville. He's down on the coast.
Oh, down in the okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to know.
The more you know.
See, I gotta learn if I'm gonna be a regular contributor on the Palmcast network. I gotta learn my Mississippi geography. Israel's teaching me my South Georgia geography, because I'm a Metro Atlanta kid. And really, I got North Georgia kind of covered because of Athens, and I got Metro Atlanta definitely covered. But getting below the gnat line, Israel's got to help me out. So
yeah, Jeb's got East Tennessee.
Yeah.
I've got Mississippi. Yeah.
Now you're about to get Central Florida.
Yeah.
Go wrestle you a gator.
Yeah. It's supposed to be 79 Saturday and Sunday. So
that sucks.
Yeah. Unfortunately, 79, but it's so cold right now, my pool will still be cold, which I can't really use until Becky gets down here anyway. So it just
throw a radiator in there and freaking roll on.
Right. The next game on the list, Georgia versus Mizzou. Missouri's ranked, guys. They have a surprising team. Eli Drinkwitz is probably in the running for SEC Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I think he nudged ahead. Go ahead, Jeb.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead. I think I cut you off.
Oh no, I wouldn't say anything. Although I agree. No, it was. I think Steve was about to speak again, but no, I know Arkansas has been a big surprise this season, but I think Missouri is the biggest surprise so far in the SEC. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much better they've gotten as the season's gone along here. Makes me
Yeah,
really happy Tennessee caught them early.
Yeah, the last 2 or 3 weeks they've really kicked it into another gear too, and their defense is playing really well. And I mean, granted, one of those performances was a 41-0 thrashing of the glorified high school team that Vandy was. But I mean, like I said, I mean, Basilic is playing. Basilic, I don't know how you say his name, but the quarterback Connor Basilic, he's playing out of his mind. Larry Roundtree is just he's bought in as a senior running back, which sometimes with a new coach it's about 50-50 with the buy-in with the senior group, but he's really kind of bought in. They've got a lot of good weapons there at Missouri, so it's not a game that you need to overlook if you're Georgia, based on what Missouri brought to the table earlier in the year. I'd be nervous to get trapped into this 2-touchdown spread that Georgia's bringing to the table. But then again, I mean, Georgia's kind of found their way offensively, but defensively, Georgia's got to figure some stuff out. They just got to figure out that, okay, maybe just the landscape of defense in general in college football is changing, because a lot of offenses are going tempo. A lot of offenses are going spread tempo, RPOs and down the field stuff. And defenses are having a hard time figuring that out right now. And that's okay. Offenses are ahead right now, and defenses are playing catch up. So it's going to be the way defense is going to be played for at least the next couple of seasons is let's get some stops. Let's give it back to our offense. And we got to be explosive on offense. And I mean, Alabama's played that way. They just suffocate you at a certain point. They're so explosive on offense. They just make you one dimensional defensively, and they play such great complementary football. And I think everybody's trying to emulate that model. But I think for Georgia, if they can get a few more stops, I think if they can get off the field on third down, force a few more punts than they did against Mississippi State, I think they will. I think they can be comfortable in this game. They need to show more balance offensively, because in JT Daniels' first start, he throws for 400 yards. In the second start, he throws not even for 200. In a game where they didn't have to, it was South Carolina's got like 4 regular defensive line starters. We're just going to mash them into submission, and they did. They rushed for 350 yards, and they were explosive in that regard. So they're going to need to be a little bit more balanced than the last couple of games as far as success on the ground, success through the air, things like that. They're going to have to probably do it in the snow too, because I think there's some snow in the forecast.
There's actually some snow in the forecast. We could have a snow game in Columbia.
I believe so. Yeah, it's from what I read. It's definitely gonna be cold. Definitely gonna be in the 30s, I think. But I think they're calling for snow. I don't know if it's like significant snow, like Lambeau Field type snow, but I think it's they're gonna have something.
Well, what Kirby needs to do, and if he doesn't, the game will pass him by and he'll end up losing his job, is he needs to come to terms with the fact that 20 points is the new 7 points. And it's okay to give up points, and it's okay to retreat a little bit on defense, make some explosive plays, some stops 3 or 4 times a game, and win with an explosive offense. If you would get somebody like Jeff Lebby at Ole Miss or Steve Sarkisian at Alabama, those guys.
Well, Todd Monken is like that.
I think he's a little bit too pro style, and he might be like that, but Kirby has to quit suffocating his coordinators, because his defense gets so much priority, his offense really can't work.
Exactly. And I think that's more of the problem, because I think Monken's true identity was in that Mississippi State game where he threw himself out of trouble.
Yeah. And it was fine against Mississippi State, because what you do against Mississippi State, and it's been shown over and over the last couple of weeks because of their secondary, if you get in trouble, throw the ball deep, because if you have an accurate quarterback, you have a good chance of being successful.
And they were to the tune of 400-something yards.
Yeah. And Ole Miss, it did the same thing. The LSU Get Revenge on LSU tour goes to Gainesville this week as Kyle Trask and Dan Mullen get their turn to pick on the Tigers. We've already talked extensively about LSU. Let's talk a little bit about the Kyles. What do you want to see out of that passing attack?
Well, I think what I want to see is I want to see 9 of 30 for like 70 yards and like 4 interceptions out of the Kyles. That if you can't tell, I don't really like Florida too much, but I think what you're gonna see is you're gonna see Kyle Trask go like 24 of 31. He's gonna be 330 and like 4 touchdowns, 3 of them to Kyle Pitts, 1 of them to like Trevion Grimes or one of those guys. And I mean, I think you're gonna see another explosive game here from the Kyles. That's an impressive duo right there. And it just, I haven't seen anybody that can guard Kyle Pitts. I think the only way to stop him is to knock him out, literally knock him out. And I think Lewis Seen took that too much to heart. But I think it's kind of mighty. I mean, I can't wait to see where Kyle Pitts gets drafted in the NFL. And I can't wait till he gets drafted in the NFL because that means he's not at Florida anymore.
Unfortunately, I'm in a complete agreement with you. I saw enough of the Kyles last weekend, but unfortunately, they're not done, and LSU's gonna get a good dose of them here as well. LSU, we've just seen completely implode. Their defense, I don't think they have much of a chance of slowing this down. And it almost looked like Florida was kind of playing around with Tennessee a little bit last weekend. They've gotten so good. Their timing is getting so perfect between Kyle Trask and his receivers and Pitts and all of them.
I think Florida's one big downfall, Jeb, is sometimes they can get off to these sleepy starts. I think where they just start slow.
Yeah,
and
that definitely happened last weekend.
And they can't do that. Like they've got to figure out a way to start slow. I mean, I don't think LSU is going to be any sort of threat to beat them because it's pretty obvious that if they haven't already, they're definitely quitting on Coach O. But
I agree. In the SEC championship, that's
I'm not necessarily worried about.
Yeah,
LSU.
they get off to a slow start in the SEC championship game. It's 14-0 lead for Alabama, and you're in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, because Devontae, we get into what kind of player Devontae Smith is. Oh my God,
yeah.
I can't wait to see him graduate either. I can't wait to see him in the NFL next year.
I want to see Devontae Smith and Elijah Moore have a competition to see who has the best hands.
Oh yeah. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this. I'm going to change the subject. I'm going to get off the Gators here for a second. Talk about Devontae Smith. Out of all the great receivers since Saban has been there that have come out of Alabama, so you're thinking what? Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley,
Jerry Jeudy,
Henry Ruggs. Who am I leaving out?
Did you say Jalen Waddle?
Jalen Waddle. Well, yeah, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. Those are the top billing guys, right? I didn't leave anybody out, did I? Like those are the top guys. Those are guys you would say are in contention for best Saban receiver of all time. Where would you rank Devontae Smith in that category based on his production right now?
I'd probably put him third, behind Julio and Amari.
Now, what do you think Julio would be doing?
Oh, maybe Calvin Ridley.
I would say Julio, Ridley, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper.
Well, Amari Cooper in college is a different animal than him getting wasted with the Cowboys.
Even then, it's more of a compliment to Devontae Smith.
Yeah, Amari Cooper caught 140 balls with Blake Sims as his quarterback.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. It was something pretty special. And that was Lane Kiffin just dialing up, getting the ball to Amari Cooper. And it's like, hey, it's going to him. Try to cover him. He was open every single time. So his production in college with Saban, I think, bumps that up a level or two.
But I like Devontae Smith in traffic. I think Devontae Smith has made more contested catches and just game-breaking, back-breaking catches. I would venture to say that
I think he has the best hands in the Saban era of any receiver.
Yeah.
I think he would have had 300 yards last weekend if they hadn't taken him out. And that's just amazing for a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they better be glad that was Steve Sarkisian and not Lane Kiffin, because Lane Kiffin would not have taken him out.
No.
You're up on Vandy like 54 to 14, and Elijah Moore's like running jet sweep pop passes midway through the fourth quarter. I mean, it doesn't stop with that guy.
No. And it's so much fun to watch Lane Kiffin, man. I like what he does, and Ole Miss made a good hire there.
Yeah, and if you go back to on the YouTube channel to Boot Camp the Offense, me and Corey broke down the whole thing of the Baylor offense with Lane Kiffin at FAU over the course of about 10 videos. It was a good series.
Yeah, it was. We broke down every aspect of it. You saw the and on the scale of FAU, I think the offensive development at a group of 5 school is probably a little bit different than it is with an SEC school that has Matt Corral and Elijah Moore and those guys. And so I think it's it was a little bit more rapid progression because of just the caliber of athletes you had. Where you were able to make a lot of things go that you weren't originally able to make go in the beginnings at FAU. But the staple is the dual read jet inside zone play that they love to run. I mean, just everything in that Lane Kiffin offense and that Lane Kiffin Baylor system is. I mean, you're seeing it. It's like clockwork, man, and it's a beautiful thing. So I don't even know where we are on topic. Going back to Florida, I guess. I mean, there's not much to talk about. I mean, the Kyles are going to go off. The defense is going to make a few plays. LSU's not going to piss a drop, and this game's going to get ugly, and Coach O's going to get fired, and we're going to, LSU is no longer a story on the football field anymore. It's become a punchline at this point. So the Kyles are going to have another banner day. Trask is going to – I think Coach O is going to give Trask the Heisman. I think he's going to present Trask with the Heisman. So at midfield at halftime.
Yeah, this might be the game that Coach O turns purple yelling at Bo Pelini.
He might actually strangle him because he's like, man, I'm going to get fired anyway, so let me go ahead and just strangle this guy.
Anyway, that is this segment. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with more games this weekend on Around the SEC.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back to Around the SEC. We're going around the games that are happening this weekend. Of course, as you know, Texas A&M and Ole Miss was postponed because of COVID, an outbreak at Ole Miss. No positive tests today, so LSU looks like it is good to go for next weekend. On to this week's game. Tennessee is in Nashville against Vanderbilt, and here's the scenario. 3 seconds left to go. Sarah Fuller, 24-yard field goal for the win. She makes it. Todd Finch becomes the head coach. Vandy is all good?
Well, definitely means that Tennessee would finally get to find a new head coach. If Jeremy Pruitt loses this game, he's getting fired. I don't expect that to happen, and
They're
I
going to
expect him
hire
to be the
Rick
coach
Stock
next year.
still. They're going to hire Rick Stock still. They're going to give him the much needed promotion. This game.
They're going to hire Hugh Freeze if Tennessee has an opening. Seriously,
if the SEC allows it.
If the SEC allows it, that's who they want.
Yeah.
I don't think Jeremy Pruitt's going anywhere this year. I'll be honest with you. I hope I'm wrong. I just don't. Unless, like I said, unless we lose this game, it would have to be a pretty big breakdown. But
so, Jeb, what's your thoughts on the quarterback situation now? It's become such a mess. You got Brian Maurer calling out the media as a third string quarterback. I don't know what the hell Pruitt's doing with Harrison Bailey. If you're going to play him, just leave him in.
And he looked decent for a true freshman. I feel like if we'd seen him get some practice the last couple of weeks, he might have actually looked pretty good in that game.
Pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
you're going against Florida. I mean,
he was better than I expected. Yeah, no, I agree, and I really liked it. Now, JT came in late in the game and did play really well as well. So, I mean, you're just seeing now. We heard Coach Pruitt telling us that Garantano was the best chance to win, and he had to leave him in. But we're seeing everybody play better than him now. So, except maybe Brian Maurer. I hadn't seen him play in a while, but.
Just stick with Harrison Bailey. That's your future.
This is the way it works. Yeah, this is the mistake coaches make all the time. And they get stuck in the thing where they actually believe it, to where their system is so complicated, there's no way a freshman can be successful, and they're scared to death, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When somebody like Lane Kiffin can put somebody in there with confidence, and Harrison Bailey at Tennessee under Lane Kiffin would throw for 270 yards a game, because he would basically be a quarterback. I just don't care. Let's do it. Let's go.
Well, also what Lane Kiffin would do is he would figure out what Harrison Bailey can do, and he would do it. And he would figure out what Harrison Bailey can't do and not do it. Jim Chaney is about as stubborn as it gets, and I saw it at Georgia. Tennessee fans, you're living it now. I'll go back to 2018 when I got all this crap from all my Tennessee fan friends about stealing Jim Chaney. Right? Oh, we stole Jim Chaney. We stole. He took y'all to the national championship. What are y'all gonna do now? He stole, and now y'all are complaining, and you're stuck with his $1.6 million salary. But God, he's gotten worse, and that's not surprising, honestly. But how can you not find something that works for your best quarterback? Like, he's a freshman. Okay, great. It's not the NFL.
Don't ask him to be a 5-read guy.
No, because he's not.
Yeah.
And he's not. I mean, he doesn't mean he can't be. It just means that he's not right now. So you got to figure out what works. Like pro style is becoming like freaking advanced calculus, and teams are going to go to like Ole Miss where they're explosive without advanced calculus. It's a pretty simple system if you really dive into it. They predicate on tempo and they predicate on tempo and putting guys in conflict, which is really what it's all about. I mean, I hate all this overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFL, you have those guys for 90 hours a week, so sure. At unlimited practice time and meeting times. And I mean, you're paying these guys millions of dollars, sure. And you have to be, because the athletes are like tenfold better. But in college, it's unnecessary. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, like I said, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is so complicated. You can't possibly understand everything. Well, the quarterback won't, because you told him ahead of time he's not going to get it, so why try? I mean,
but the great thing about it is Vandy can't even run a 3-4 defense this week because they don't have one outside linebacker. So there's that.
And honestly, I thought Harrison Bailey was doing a pretty good job of running through his progressions and everything. Our offensive line couldn't keep him upright very often, and I feel like hopefully we'll have a better game at that than against Vandy. So maybe he'll get a little bit more of a chance to see how he does.
And it's a combination of asking a kid who can't make 5 progression reads to make 5 progression reads. He's going to go through them a little bit slower, and the offensive line can't hold up all the time. They have good protection sometimes. He's got to get the ball out quicker. The offensive line's got to protect better in some scenarios, but some scenarios, Harrison Bay's got to just get rid of it.
And
You got to help him out as a coordinator.
Yeah, and that Tennessee offensive line is basically built to mash. It's designed for Eric Gray. And by the way, 2 years, they are wasting Eric Gray right now.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about all of this. They're so deficient at quarterback, and they just completely screwed that up that they are wasting Eric Gray right now.
And I know coaches aren't going to have this mentality going into a season, but this was almost a season where they really should have been building for next season. They should have been playing Harrison Bailey a lot more. They should have been getting him reps with the receivers that will actually be here next season. And then hopefully by next season have him playing at a decent level. You have Eric Gray, your offensive line. I really think it could have been a good season, and still can be a good season next season.
You can win with Harrison Bailey. Like I don't think they would have lost much with Harrison Bailey. You make the argument, well, they, at the time we were clamoring for, they'd only lost 2 games. Well, I don't think Harrison Bailey's going to that much of a drop off. But then again, you got to get the right coaching in there. You got to get the right leadership in there. And I just don't think, in all seriousness, I don't think Tennessee has that with Jeremy Pruitt. I just don't think Jeremy Pruitt's a good head coach. I definitely don't believe in Jim Chaney anymore. He's good at some things, but being an in-game offensive coordinator is not one of them. And so they've got to get better there too. And so I think that you're going to see – I think honestly what you're going to see is Jeremy Pruitt gut the offensive staff and start over. That's going to be his last chance. Like Fulmer's going to be like, hey, Jeremy, come here. This is what you're going to do. You're going to take your offensive staff. You're going to fire them all. You're going to hire some new guys. And then the next year, if you don't win, it's on you. Then you're gone. And we're going to get Hugh Freeze because the SEC is finally going to let us have him. Go get him, Tiger.
Yeah, and Jeremy Pruitt would have been a great SEC coach in 2002. But I think what he wants to do on defense and on offense, the game has just moved past that.
It has. And Kirby better watch out. He's treading in that territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're a Bama defensive coordinator, it is not a good time to be you. Former Bama defensive coordinator.
Yeah, so you got to look at your former boss and say, oh, they're explosive.
Yeah, you're just sitting there.
They can run the ball.
Yeah, they can look at their mentor and see how he's evolved with the game to try to get ahead of it, bringing in Lane Kiffin and now being just explosive.
Guys like Nick Saban, guys like Lane Kiffin, they're like, look, I don't care how we score points. I want to be explosive because, if we can score points and overwhelm people offensively, it don't matter what we do defensively. We don't have to rely on our defense. And that's what they do. And that's why they keep recruiting these stable of wide receivers. That's why, John Mechie is going to be the next big thing at Alabama. He's going to be the next receiver that we talk about. They just keep building and building and building because they're explosive. Sark has fallen right in line with Lane Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a tremendous job of getting there and getting the offense on a level and really resurrecting his career, because when he got fired from the Atlanta Falcons, it was like, okay. I mean, he hit rock bottom when he got fired at USC, and when he drank himself out of the job. But he went to coach's rehab and then went to the Falcons and then came back as offensive coordinator at Bama. And I think he learned a lot from his NFL experience. I think he was starting to make some good traction in the NFL. I just didn't think he was a great fit for that league. I think he's a great college coach, and that's okay. It's okay to not be a good fit for the NFL because not everybody is. It's a completely different beast, and he wasn't quite there yet. So that's okay.
Yeah, and then whenever you're dealing with Sark, we'll talk about Bama at Arkansas as our last game of the weekend. When you're talking about Sark and you're talking about Kiffin, you're really talking about the Norm Chow offense and the evolution of that Norm Chow package into modern tempo and how it's presented. Because the run game's a little different, they present it a little different, but the pass game and the way you go at the same player over and over and over again to get results, it's very Norm Chow.
Yeah, and it's very much why USC was successful in the early 2000s because they had, they had that with combination of explosive, great recruiting and locking down the state of California. It just bred great results, and you had all these great producers and quarterbacks and things like that ended up making some noise in the NFL. And yeah, you're exactly right. You're starting to see it's that Pete Carroll, Norm Chow, coaching tree that's really starting to kind of sprout up in the Southeast now.
And Arkansas is set to go with Barry Odom, and they're going to drop 8 like they did against Ole Miss. And it's going to be up to Mac Jones to pick it apart. And to be honest, he probably will.
Najee Harris, I think, is going to have a big game.
Oh, he's going to have a huge.
I think they're going to lean heavily on or heavier, I should say, on the run game this week against a team that's going to probably play a little bit softer and try not to get beat over the top. So look for that because don't be fooled. Bama's explosive through the air, but they can run too. That's what's scary.
What is his
forget
name?
About that.
Brian Anderson, is that the second string back?
Robinson.
Brian Robinson. Yeah, he would start. Robinson. Yeah, I think it's Robinson as well. He would start for probably 98% of college football programs. Mm-hmm. And you might see 2 running backs break 100 yards tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but in 2 days.
And you know what's scary is the backup at Alabama usually gets drafted higher than the starter.
Yeah. It's a situation when Ole Miss was beating Alabama in 2014 and 2015. Derrick Henry was on that Alabama team. But the one that scared us to death and we wanted to get him off the field was TJ Yeldon.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And he washed out in the league, but I think he just things didn't work out for him for whatever reason. But and then King Henry.
Yeah.
With running backs in the NFL, sometimes it's just the situation they get into. Derrick Henry's in the perfect situation, and not always. You had Trent Richardson had a couple tries and just couldn't get it going in the league. But a lot of times, I think some of them get swallowed up by the system they're in if they don't go to the right place for them.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 Alabama backs that really hit in the league, and that'd be Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram.
Yeah, the 2 Heisman guys.
The 2 Heisman guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of those. See, I think a lot of those guys, like Derrick Henry, was a beneficiary of having Mark Ingram, not Mark Ingram, but TJ Yeldon, and I think they had Eddie Lacy too, didn't they?
Yeah. They went to Green Bay, I think.
Yeah, so they had 3 guys that kind of shared the load. So I don't think any of them got worn out. I think Trent Richardson, like after Mark Ingram left and Trent Richardson took over, he was really the only guy. I think Eddie Lacy was still kind of like very much of like a used sparingly backup running back, but definitely not used as frequently as he was later in his career. But so I think the tread on Trent Richardson's tires really expired after like year 2. I mean, he fell off a cliff almost after year 2 in the NFL. And some of these Bama running backs, that's what happened to them. And you're starting to see Mark Ingram really break down. But I think that's Henry was still relatively fresh.
Yeah, it's kind of.
He never really got tackled and hit in college like some of these other guys because he was just so big and explosive. Like he just kind of absorbed it better too.
Yeah, his last year at Alabama, the last 3 games was averaging about 47 carries.
He might be the first running back to retire from the NFL without knee problems, but with elbow problems from all the stiff arms.
Yeah.
double elbow replacements.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to a break. Come back with picks. This is Around the SEC. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
but give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.